Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. My friends, there are two ways to lead our lives. The way we want and the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants for us. Whichever way we choose, we will be held accountable for it when we die. The issue with living the way we want is that our knowledge is limited and our desires rule us. The benefit of living the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to live is that He knows what is best for us and guides us to that. And since the accounting is with Him, if we live by His way, that day will inshallah be a day of rejoicing for us. I remind you and myself that to live is not merely to draw breath. That is the way animals live. They are the slaves of their drives, they follow their desires, and one day they die and the story is over. Humans, on the other hand, have the option of living like animals, fulfilling every desire, or of living a life of purpose and leaving behind a legacy of honor. That choice is what we must make. To underline this and set the standard, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كل نفس ذائقة الموت وإنما توفون أجوركم يوم القيامة فمن زحزح عن النار وأدخل الجنة فقد فاز وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, every soul will taste death, and you will only receive your full reward on the day of judgment. Whoever is spared from the fire and is admitted into Jannah will indeed triumph, will be finally successful. Whereas the life of this world is no more than the delusion of enjoyment. Let's give this some thought and ask how our lives compare to this standard. Success and failure in life are products of the choices we make. The Quran and Sunnah guide us to the best of them, the path of those who Allah rewarded and not those who angered Him. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. The Industrial Revolution, a quick history lesson. The Industrial Revolution, roughly between 1760 and 1840, changed the basis of society. It was less about the assembly line or automated manufacture and more about changing how people thought and what they valued. There were three major changes that happened in the Industrial Revolution that remain with us to this day. Aspirational values, parenting, and teaching. These three got changed. And this changed society fundamentally. The challenge is to take the good from it and use it. In an agrarian society, pre-industrial revolution, parents were also teachers. Children knew what parents did and learned those skills from them. Usually the roles were gender specific. Mothers taught daughters skills of housekeeping and animal husbandry, caring for children, including complex matters like assisting in childbirth and dealing with minor ailments. They were also schooled in manners, traditions, customs, and practices, both religious and cultural. Sons followed fathers to the fields and workshops and learned the skills of planting and carpentry and animal husbandry. They also learned how to make and repair farming implements and machinery and troubleshoot problems. The skills learned by both genders were critical to survival and life quality, and being gender specific created a positive dependency on one another. In agrarian societies, parents and grandparents are mentors and respected role models and teachers. Their experience matters and they have huge moral authority. Joint families are the norm and are a support system for raising children and caring for elders. Every family member has a place and usefulness and so is valued. You can see all this today in the Amish culture in America. The Industrial Revolution changed all this. Clothing and fashion, gender roles and responsibilities, authority structures, the concept of freedom and accountability, and the basis of value all changed, mostly to suit the needs of an industrial society. In all this, the fundamental change was with what people valued and therefore benchmarked themselves against. That primarily became money. Three critical aspects of society became industrialized and became businesses and profit centers: parenting, education, and healthcare. In my opinion, this is at the root of all that ails global society today. When that which was to be done for love is done for money, something fundamental changes. The results are evident. Mechanized agriculture eliminated small farms, and machinery eliminated the need for farm animals. Factories needed people, so both parents went to work, and raising children was industrialized and outsourced to strangers. Daycare and schools became businesses, and education became conflated with skill training. Since teaching of manners, culture, social skills, the ability to get along with people, kindness, compassion, citizenship, caring for commons, and a host of other things, which are symbols of civilization and critical to life, cannot be monetized, they were ignored. That education is for life and not merely to earn a living was forgotten. As a result, today most children don't know nor care what parents do. They are disconnected from the earth and nature and wouldn't survive a week if left alone on their own. Parents think that throwing enough money at their children is the cure for all evils and fulfills all needs. By the time they realize their mistake, it is too late. Joint families broke up, and with that, the sense of identity, cultural links, and responsibility for others, including taking care of elders, all disappeared. Grandparents, who were the link with the community and the repository of tradition and culture, lost their position and role, and loneliness became a major killer despite people being financially far better off than they were in the old days. The daycare person and school teacher are strangers, often from a different culture, religion, and value system, who naturally impart those to the children. I'm not against learning other ways, but when children learn those without knowing their own, those become their own. Children experience alienation from their own culture and religion and fall into confusion, which in some cases results in loss of faith. All that I am saying has to do with the reason we do things, our niyyah, our intention. When parents, teachers, doctors, and lawyers become concerned about bottom lines and profit margins, it is a sign that cancer has spread in society. That cancer is predatory capitalism. And in our society today, globally, it has spread far and deep. When you define net worth as the amount of money a person has, that too in terms of notional wealth and nothing else, then we should stop wondering at the results. Just ask yourself, when was the last time we defined net worth as knowledge and character and kindness and mercy, commitment to justice, to human rights, to freedom for all people? When was net worth defined as this? This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam changed. Up here, he changed the concept of net worth from Abu Lahab to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And that changed everything. Today we have come full circle and nullified that. That is the reason for endless wars, because war makes the highest ROI, the highest return on investment, the highest profit. When the only thing that matters is money, then human life and values and ethics and morals are all distractions. To continue with this or not is in your court. The future belongs to you. And it is for you to decide what you want it to be for yourself and your children. Today, we are in the middle of another revolution, the AI revolution, which is further dividing and isolating us. Some of our modern ailments are loneliness leading to depression and worse, obsession with instant gratification, disconnectedness, emotional distance, fear of death, diminishing social skills, and reducing attention spans. All are symptoms of a fatal malaise that destroys the cohesiveness of society and concern for one another. It is not for nothing that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam defined his ummah as one body where when the head aches, the whole body feels the pain. Do we see this today? Today, one of the biggest killers of the elderly is loneliness. They have children and grandchildren, but their children and grandchildren have no time for them. Add to this the psychological manipulation of consumerism by influencers, pushing those influenced to buy more and more and more. Research shows that singles buy more, so the institution of marriage and the importance of raising families is undermined and discounted in favor of so-called independence and freedom. We don't stop to ask, freedom from what? And what is the benefit of this freedom? Technology gives us free access to vast databases and the ability to acquire knowledge in almost any area and flexibility in ways of learning. All good. Potentially, this opens the doors to multiple career choices. But the tools to make good choices come not from technology, but from reflective observation of life and abstract conceptualization to extract application lessons. This technology cannot give us. These are mental and spiritual tools learned from wise mentors who are willing to share what they learned if you can convince them that you are worth their time and effort. Because knowledge without experience is merely data. To paraphrase from Mark Twain, who said that about the difference between the right word and the almost right word, experience is as different from mere knowledge as lightning is from the lightning bug. In my opinion, there are 4 attitudinal skills that are critical to success in facing life's challenges. Winners have a high tolerance for ambiguity, are willing to admit mistakes, are willing to learn, and are highly resilient. The enabler of this is humility. Tolerance for ambiguity is essential because life, by definition, is a daisy chain of unknowns. If unknowns freeze you or frighten you, then you can't move forward. What helps is to use probability analysis and what-if reasoning, scenario planning, and such tools to chart the best path forward. And be willing to change that if you discover that your method is not working. The goal is sacrosanct. The path is a means to get to the goal. The key is to maintain the integrity of the goal while being willing to change the approach. The core of this is tawakkul. Tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, total trust in His plan for us. We must do our best and trust in His wisdom. Number two, the willingness to admit mistakes and willingness to learn are related. Learning doesn't always come from mistakes, but often it does. Making mistakes, if done intelligently, shows the willingness to take risks. As they say, the one who risks nothing gains nothing. But often, people are so afraid of the potential embarrassment of admitting a mistake that they stay with denial. We can see some very glaring examples of that globally, but it happens at the individual level also. The result is the same. Everyone knows you are wrong. By denying it, you lose respect, and more importantly, you learn nothing. But if you are focused on learning, then the cost of the mistake is merely your fee of learning. You learn and you move on. I ask 5 questions when I make a mistake. What happened? What could have happened? What is the cost of the mistake? What should be done next time? And what is the way to foolproof the process? Document that and move on. So, how do you deal with mistakes? Finally, the most important thing is resilience. I have a nesting box outside the window of my study. In it, a pair of old world sparrows made a nest and raised 3 chicks. One day, a blue jay found them. Over a period of about a week, despite all my efforts at preventing it, the jay killed all of them. The sparrows were distraught and clearly very distressed. Then, when all was over, what did they do? They rebuilt the nest and they raised another brood. This time, 4 chicks, and they all survived. That is why there are more sparrows than jays. Resilience is the ability to get up after a disaster and continue. As they say, you don't lose the race when you fail. You lose when you fail to rise. You don't lose the race when you fall. You lose when you fail to rise. That is why small birds inspire me, as they are the greatest symbol of resilience in nature. Totally defenseless, totally focused, and totally resilient. Nothing short of death can stop them. As the Chinese saying goes, if you fall 6 times, get up 7 times. Lastly, I must make a case for slowness. Not tardiness, but deliberate patience and thoroughness, which appears as slowness. We have made the mindless pursuit of speed our goal. Fast everything, including decision making, which means there is less time for reflection, collecting more data if necessary, exploring alternatives, what if questioning, seeking the advice of others, all of which could have helped us to make a better decision. Was the quick decision really necessary? Most of the time, no. A delay of a day or two wouldn't even have been noticed. This drive for useless speed also creates stress and a false sense of urgency that's detrimental to sleep and rest, and wrong decisions can prove to be very costly. I remind you myself that this life is like a fertile field. It will give you a harvest of whatever you plant in it, but only of what you plant. You plant rice, you get rice. You plant wheat, you get wheat. You plant rice and you want wheat, you no get. We get what we pay for. So be very careful what you plant. It's time to stop living by default and start living thoughtfully and deliberately. The Quran warns us not to be deceived by this life and its glitter, but to remember that one day we will meet Allah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make that the best day of our lives. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.